and welcome to episode 2 of Silver Screen Anomalies. I'm Hallie.
And I'm Skyler.
And today we've got quite the little lineup for you, I think.
We sure do. What's the theme for today, Hallie?
Dolls Gone Wild!
Yeah, weird, creepy dolls.
Yeah.
We have a entirely horror-themed podcast for you today. What else about our podcast do our lovely viewers need to know?
First of all, we are, as always, not spoiler-free. If you have not seen the films we are reviewing, and they are in the description, and you don't want spoilers, you probably should turn this off, like, right now. Maybe even 10 seconds ago.
We also get real salty.
Super salty. Maritime air. And, you know, us.
Yeah, I just like swearing.
I know, it's fucking fun.
So that's cool. Why don't we get into a little bit of a description of our first movie?
All right. Well, first up to bat, we have the new addition to the Conjuring spin-off universe, Annabelle Comes Home.
All right, everybody. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren are hellbent on preventing a possessed doll from wreaking havoc. Thus, they lock it away safely in their room of mysterious and dangerous artifacts. Little do they realize, babysitters are apparently really stupid in 1968, and through a series of careless decisions, poor life choices, and etc., the doll escapes and more.
And the more is really the interesting part of the film, and unfortunately also kind of where they fell short.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of brings all things unholy along with it when it escapes, but
yeah.
it's the all things unholy aspect of this that was really disappointing for me.
Yeah, because, I mean, so you've got this cursed doll possessed by, hypothetically, a demon that you have now put in a room with a whole bunch of other artifacts that are possessed, cursed, or otherwise, you know, evil. And, you know, it's a trigger. It's a catalyst for all these things. These things get out, and it's really cool, but there's not enough there.
There's
they
not
fell
enough
short.
Backstory or focus on, I guess we should, for the sake of the listeners, the Annabelle movies, all three of them do this. It is less focused on the doll as a threat and more what is inhabiting the doll. So there's a demon, a traditional goat-infused horned devil demon, a very Satan-like or satanic-like, that has infused itself into this doll, and that is what makes it a threat. So the doll itself is not like a mobile living thing. So more often than not, the doll, I think the scariest thing it does in all three movies is fall off of a nightstand or something. I don't know. It's really funny.
Gravity is terrifying, man.
And why don't we talk about the doll for a second? Because, like, really, like, if I have anything major that I can speak at volume or length about, it's how incredibly problematic this doll is.
So for anyone who doesn't know, and I'd be surprised if you didn't know by this point, if you've seen any of the movies or anything, or read up on the Warrens, the original Annabelle doll is, in fact, not some creepy, weird, gaunt, slashed-up looking critter, but it's actually a Raggedy Ann doll, which to me is so much more scary than, like, having that thing.
Well, subtlety is key with that, right? Because
subtlety for me is key with all horror.
That's right. Like, it's what makes it more, it lulls its audience into a false sense of security, and the doll in question that we are speaking of in these movies looks like it's in a crack house. It's scraped up, scratched, bruised. It's darkened through age. It looks like a demonic item.
And I get it. You know, you want to convey that it is a demonic item. But one of the key things
they conveyed it.
And then some, Skyler, and then some. But the thing about it is evil should look benign, because that's how you lure people in. That's how you trick them, or how the demons would trick them. It's having a doll look evil, and I guess you could explain it away by, you know, over time the evil is corrupting this object more and more, but to me that's just, it doesn't quite work.
Oh, are you saying that you shouldn't have a giant neon sign like arrow pointing at the doll saying, "I am evil, please adopt me"? Because I don't understand at all why anyone would want this thing in their house.
I don't know how anyone could think it would look normal. Like, okay, the scene with the babysitter going to check on Judy.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
You know, goes up to the room, checks on Judy. This is after Annabelle has been let free by babysitters less than keen friend, let's say.
Yes.
After Annabelle has escaped and the babysitter goes up to check on Judy, the Warren's daughter, And there's Annabelle lying in bed with Judy, who's asleep. And it's just like, okay, hang on. As a babysitter, and I was a babysitter once upon a time, as I think most people have been at one point or another, you've never seen the doll before. It's suddenly in bed with this child, and it looks like that, and you're just like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
That seems normal.
That's just irresponsible babysitting.
I'm not going to remove that or question why it's there. I don't remember seeing it ever before, but, whatever.
Now, this movie has one thing going for it in that, and it's a draw from a marketing perspective, and it's also kind of a savior point in terms of like, okay, it kills the angle of like, why would anyone own this doll? And that is that the Warrens are the ones that are housing the doll for this particular movie. It takes place in their home, and they're literally locking it away because they know it's evil. It doesn't have that angle of like, okay, we're doing like an origin story of some sort for the Annabelle doll to basically figure out how it became possessed, and then at the same time setting up this very, in my opinion, unrealistic angle of like someone would willingly put that doll into their home. They are willingly putting the doll into their home because they want to keep it safe and away from...
And there are safeguards. There are signs that say, don't touch, don't open the glass. And what do? The exact opposite of that.
Oh, she rubs her face, hands, and chest all over everything.
Which, is kind of the problem in the movie. You've touched everything and woken pretty much everything in that room.
If you put signs all over a room, I'm going to touch everything.
That's why we're not allowed to go to museums anymore.
It's just how I roll. Please don't take it out of context.
Oh, God. All right. The one thing that I will say that this movie had going for it were the items themselves and the spirits in the house.
Easily the coolest thing about this movie.
Very, very interesting. They really hooked me in with the different monsters, especially one of the entities in the house is the ferryman. And I have to say, he was real creepy. I enjoyed that. You have the coins on the eyes, it's kind of a twist on the original mythology of the ferryman, who you pay the coins. When you die, the coins are placed on your eyes to pay the ferryman to take you across the river Styx. Whereas in this, if you don't pay him, he takes your soul, which I think is a really interesting twist. Pretty
clever twist that they did there, and I really did like the overall design of not just that character, but several of the other characters.
Oh, yeah,
when you have
sure.
this, like, basically this room filled with imaginative items and artifacts that are all evil in their own way, you basically have a smorgasbord situation of, like, endless possibilities of setting up really interesting horror scenarios to really scare an audience and subsequently the characters in the film. The issue herein lies, and I think we touched on this briefly earlier, is that they don't really utilize the artifacts the way that they should, even though some of them are well handled. Because another one that I actually personally really enjoyed was the suit of armor, like the samurai suit.
Yeah, the samurai armor was really cool.
That was appealing to me in even the Conjuring movies, and I was like, what's the deal with that? And I wish there was a little more focus on some of these specific items, maybe give us a little bit more to chew on. So you have those lore points to hang on to, and then also the scares.
Yeah, like, I think from a story perspective, what would have been a better idea, and I think that the major issue that we both had with this film was that it was a real slow burn.
Oh, it was fucking boring.
I'd say nothing really supernatural starts happening until halfway, even like 3/5 of the way through the movie. Like, it was kind of a really slow burn. And from a story perspective, where there are so many entities in the house, something that maybe they could have done, instead of doing all these entities showing up, focus on 2 or 3 and have them deal with them in stages.
Yes, absolutely.
It gives more, and that gives you time to learn the background a little more. Like, they do a little bit of a background into the monsters as they're flipping through files. The characters are flipping through the Warrens' files, but it wasn't enough.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Have a more clever setup, more interesting characters, and then subsequently this movie should have just been nothing but pandemonium from like the get-go, and pace it well. But also, like, if you've got like this room full of artifacts, use it. Like, actually have some really good setups and payoffs.
Yeah.
The problem with this movie, other than the fact they're is no pacing to speak of. I was reaching for my sleeping mask about 30 minutes in. Is that anything that this movie sets up, it never pays off. You're just so bored because you're waiting for something to happen and nothing happens. It kind of goes to hell in the last like half hour or so, where things start to finally take place and the chaos ensues in the home. It ramps up to a reasonable point where you're like, oh, there's energy in the movie finally, but it's not enough to save it. It just feels empty and feels cheap and cash grabby. And that brings me to another point. We have to talk about this whole Conjuring universe itself. I have a lot of issues with the Conjuring universe because, okay, and I already know what your opinions are on this, but for the audience,
well, you do.
For the audience's sake, the Conjuring movies themselves. I mean, the James Wan films, Conjuring 1 and 2, the focus on Ed and Lorraine Warren as characters. Those movies are excellent, especially the first one. The first one really knocks it out of the park. It's kind of like a solid summer blockbuster horror, which is something we kind of needed to bring life to the genre. And it was a major contributor for that. And now, as a result of its success financially and critically, we now have this universe, because everything has to have a universe now. Thanks, Marvel. We have this situation where there's all these spin-offs based on all these other characters and creatures and entities from these movies, and they're absolutely pointless. They don't service any story points. They don't service anything other than an attempt to make some money. And if anything, they really just sully the brand as an entity. Like, I can't go back and watch the Conjuring movies without thinking about The Nun or these Annabelle movies or what is it, Lolorana?
Oh, yeah, that wasn't even really part of the Conjuring.
It was, actually.
What?
Confirmed, yeah.
What?
They didn't even, that one was a sneaky one because they didn't even announce it initially. It became part of the Conjuring universe after the fact.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I confirmed. I looked this up. If one of our audience members wants to prove me wrong, please comment in our message boards, please, because I would love it if that movie was not part of it. But pretty damn sure.
You know what I found something very interesting about the Annabelle movie, Annabelle Comes Home, is that it wasn't really about Annabelle.
No, it never is.
Like, she just kind of floats around the rooms and
she does
is spooky, but
nothing.
Doesn't really do anything in this movie. Whereas, you know, the previous two films, obviously Annabelle was kind of the focal point.
Totally.
And I almost wish we'd been able to review Annabelle Creation instead, because that was a better movie than the other two.
Good Lord, yes. Annabelle Creation is, by and large, not a perfect movie in any way, but as a creepy doll in the Conjuring universe spin-off, it works actually pretty well. There's there's good craftsmanship there. Like, as from a filmmaking standpoint, that movie is a good example. If you want to do a comparison, having proper setups and proper payoffs, there's some good scares in there. Yeah,
no, there's some genuinely good scares. There's good character development and growth, and I enjoyed that one. Yeah. This one, it wasn't the acting I had a problem with. It was the character motivations.
Yes.
Daniela, the character who goes into the room in the Warrens' house and touches everything and unleashes Annabelle. I know grief makes you do really, sometimes some stupid things, or, you know, some really strong things. Opening a glass case.
It felt like a cheap setup to me.
It does. It didn't work for me. I'm like, there's a sign on the case that says do not open.
Yeah.
And there's a devil tarot card on the case, and you had to open. Like, no.
It's like number one horror trope, dating all the way back to like even like The Evil Dead, where it's just like a book that clearly states do not read from this book, and you read the book. And I mean, obviously that works for something like The Evil Dead because there's an air of hokiness that kind of comes along with that, and it leads to at least some entertainment value. For this, it's like you're just shouting at the screen because there's no relatable or likable characters. Annabelle has more personality than most of the characters.
The ghosts. That's the only reason I'm there. The ghosts and spirits and entities. That's it for me.
And it's not that like the actors are bad. There's some okay performances in here.
Yeah, the performance. I mean, we had Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, and
they're amazing.
They were only like the beginning and the end. Don't go looking for them throughout the whole movie. But
do not see this movie because the marketing will trick you. If you want to see this movie because of them,
don't go to this movie.
Yeah, refrain. Do not do that.
Just wait for The Conjuring 3. I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah. The most likable characters in this movie were side characters. Bob.
Bob has balls, man.
He's adorable.
He was. He was very adorable.
And the pizza guy.
Okay, the pizza guy was...
We may be on a different wavelength with the pizza guy, but the pizza guy had more personality than the babysitter and her friend.
Yeah, I kind of like thinking that the pizza guy... I don't know. I feel like he could drift in and out of any movie and just be that character that transcends every film ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of like design, sound design and stuff, at least the one thing these movies have going for them, and this is all of them, all the spinoffs.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is because a lot of the legwork was already done in the Conjuring films. A lot of it's a cut and paste job from what I can tell, but there is some good sound design in here. And
the creature designs too, like the ghosts that you do see. I enjoyed them.
Yeah,
I thought they were creepy. Cool. Some of them are really unsettling, especially, like I said earlier, the ferrymen. Yeah. Very, very creepy.
Not a tremendous overuse of CGI or anything weird or hokey. There's some good practical effects and setups, and like it actually does a pretty good job of not relying too heavily on jump scares, although I would have liked this movie to scare me at all. Because I was...
but Skyler, let's be fair and honest here. What was the last movie we saw that really genuinely scared us? Think about it for a second.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
Well, no, like there's movies that work. Come on, like
I'm not saying they don't work. I'm just saying
Hereditary scared me.
Oh no, it didn't really scare me.
It upset me. I don't know if that's the same thing.
No, that's
scares are like they're on a different level. Like what scares people varies. It's like laughter, right? Like comedy. It's all a subjective.
I thought you meant like child's laughter, because that's pretty terrifying.
I thought Hereditary kind of freaked me out a little bit, and then like I guess A Quiet Place was pretty effective. Had some good setups, good jump scares in there.
Well, that's
if we have to go back to another one, I suppose. Like it didn't completely scare me, but at least it's a good movie. I don't need a horror film to scare me. I need it to do something, though, other than put me to sleep.
You know what? It doesn't need to be scary. It needs to be satisfying. And ultimately, I was not satisfied with Annabelle Comes Home.
Yeah. You know what? Let's compare this to... I'm going to make an analogy. Are you ready?
All right. I'm ready.
All right. So I think Annabelle Creation is the best film to compare this to. And both movies have the same functionality. These movies don't really have plots. They're like roller coasters. Imagine you're strapped into a roller coaster for a second. Annabelle Creation is like going through the fun house with a hall of mirrors, and things jump out and actually scare you and startle you, and you have a good time. Like it's very like it's an empty experience, but it's a memorable experience. It leaves a mark in some respect or another. Not like it's not traumatizing you, but you had fun. This movie is a roller coaster ride where a clown with half-assed makeup shows up and throws Lysol wipes in your face.
What?
It's sticky. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't smell nice. And it doesn't even clean you up properly.
You know what? I don't even want to know why the clown had Lysol wipes. I'm just, okay, all right.
I'm riffing.
Okay.
And that's where I'm at.
Okay, well,
someone will like it out there.
All right, well, let's just move on straight to scoring here.
Oh, cool. I'm ready.
All right.
What, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. What did you give Annabelle Comes Home?
Well, as you can imagine, it's not a very high number.
No, mine's not either.
Out of 10, Annabelle Comes Home gets a 5 out of 10 for me.
Skyler.
What happened?
We had the same number.
No way.
I also had a 5 out of 10.
This is the first time this has happened.
Really, though? I mean,
in episode 2.
Go team.
High fives.
I would high five, but you're all the way over there, and I'm not really. I'm not getting up. Yeah. Okay, cool. I think that the only reason I'd even gave it a 5 was because I enjoyed the entities so much.
Me too. It's actually for the exact same reason. I feel like there's some good ideas here, good conceptual design. There's enough to chew on that grabbed my interest, but overall, it's a middle of the road experience that feels very cash grabby and half-hearted.
Yeah. I mean, if you really want to grab some of my money, they're creators of the Conjuring universe. Release a book with all these entities in it. Tell me who they are. Tell me their backstories. I will buy that book.
Make a graphic novel because I like pictures.
I would also buy a graphic novel.
There you go.
There's a couple of nice marketing ideas for the Conjuring universe directors. If you want some more of our money, just don't give me more of Annabelle. I'm done with Annabelle and that creepy, messed up looking doll.
Novels or graphic novels, please.
There you go.
Comics. There's other mediums you can use to tell these stories are lucrative and don't waste our time in a theater. Thank you.
Though. All right, so I guess we should move on to the next film then.
So our next film is Child's Play 2019. It's a remake.
We went with a theme with this episode.
We sure did. Well, we did go with a theme.
Well, we did. And in the end, we ended up with a theme of sorts. But our initial idea when pairing up Child's Play and Annabelle was doing possessed doll movies. Mm-hmm. But we came up with that theme before we actually saw this remake of Child's Play. And spoiler alert, you should have been warned before now if you haven't turned off this episode. He's not possessed.
No. Let's emphasize that and focus on that a little bit more. For the audience's sake, here's a little description for you. Andy Barclay receives a special gift from his mother in the form of a buddy doll. This is the doll in question that Hallie is referencing, the serial killer doll. A modern pinnacle of smart technology and obeys your every command, or does it? Due to a strange malfunction, the doll takes on a life of its own, causing mayhem and violence around every corner. Andy must unite with a neighborhood posse of kids to take down the monstrous doll before it's too late. And Hallie, I couldn't agree more. This doll is not possessed at all.
This doll is not possessed, Skyler.
My sick rhymes.
The original Child's Play, that doll was in fact possessed by the soul of a serial killer.
Yeah, it was actually hilarious. I remember when I was a kid and I saw that movie, probably shouldn't have watched that at a young age.
I'm sure it had no ramifications
whatsoever.
Thanks,
Mom. That scene actually kind of freaked me out a little bit. As an adult, it's like a comedy show. He's like using dark magic to move his dying spirit into the doll, and it's ridiculous. It's silly. And this movie is also ridiculous and silly, but there's an air of plausibility to it that's kind of refreshing
and kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
So this movie for me really capitalized on the what if scenario, where we are a growing society, and along with growing as a society, technology is also advancing at a remarkable pace. Now, this buddy doll in the 2019 remake it's artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. It's learning as it goes. And there are, as with any number of, horror movies dealing with AI, there are supposed to be locks in place to prevent dolls from, say killing people and cutting off their heads or ripping off their faces and putting them on watermelons. I had a real problem with the violence in this movie, Skyler.
We'll talk about the violence later, but to speak to what you're saying, there is an intelligence to this movie that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, it's very insightful, and what makes it kind of scarier than I think the original is that it's possible.
Yes, we are actually on the verge of potentially having a buddy doll related scenario with our Google Homes, maybe, or Alexa, yeah, our smart technology that we have in our homes. There's a little bit of like a Terminator thing going on here, where it's the what if scenario of what if technology became sentient on some level or another. And what's really interesting and fascinating about this buddy doll is that it starts off harmlessly enough. There's definitely, and maybe we'll get into this, maybe we won't. The reason or the way that it is malfunctioning is kind of interesting as well, because that's also a commentary unto itself separately. That being said, the buddy doll winds up committing itself to violence because it learns from us.
Yeah, it learns from watching us watch horror movies, which is an interesting kind of, like, I don't know, almost a breaking of the fourth wall.
Just
almost.
a bit. There's a
Like,
comment on the genre itself there. They were watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which is really fascinating.
and everyone, all the kids that were watching were laughing and enjoying it. And
Yeah.
so, you know, Chucky, seeing his buddy Andy there really enjoying the violence on the screen, tries to commit an act of violence to make him happy.
Yeah, to make him happy, to protect him. There's in a weird way, despite the fact that this is a machine that is malfunctioning, there's almost an air of sadness that kind of comes along with this version of Chucky because
It's learned from us.
yeah, it's learned from us, and it's also just trying to appease its master. It's trying to make Andy happy.
Yeah.
As opposed to the original, where it is straight up a serial killer.
Yeah, no sympathy
right from the
there.
get-go. No sympathy there.
But you almost feel sympathetic with this version of Chucky.
I think this version is more sympathetic, and I think the original has more dimension because it's a genuine character that evolves and grows over a franchise. I have a weird attachment to the franchise, as hokey and strange as it is.
Are you saying I should get you a Chucky doll for Christmas? Like what?
That's
is
no,
this
it's
a
fine.
hint?
I don't need any dolls in my house. I'm good.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you.
I'm definitely not going to get one and put it on your counter at some point when you're not looking. Anyway, so
Oh God.
now there's another reason I think I love this Chucky so much.
Can I take a guess? Can I
You-
take a stab in the dark?
You could take a
No
stab
pun
in the dark.
intended.
Just don't stab me.
Mark Hamill.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love Mark
The
Hamill.
voice cast.
Just so good.
Oh, brilliant! And they dropped that kind of like a month and a half out. That's that's the thing that was shocking about this movie. Mark Hamill's inclusion in it was actually announced like very close to its release date, which was shocking to me.
Yeah.
It was a genuine surprise and a very welcome casting choice because Mark Hamill, as everyone knows,
So talented.
he's so talented. The best Joker,
Oh yeah, hands down.
hands down.
I mean, for voice acting, 100%.
Yeah.
I love him as a person, a voice actor. Like he is. If I'm ever watching an animated version of Batman and the Joker comes on, it has to be Mark Hamill, or it's hard to believe.
Yeah, there's a lot of good iterations of that character, but like trust me, we could have a separate podcast just on the Batman animated series alone because I love it so
That
much.
might be a good idea.
But Mark
sometime.
Hamill is such a big
Mark
part
that
of
down.
that. Like his iteration of that character is just so spot on, and his
Yeah.
other voice cast roles from video games to films to television have been nothing but superb, and this is no different.
No, he
His-
did a fantastic job as Chucky. I think that was another reason why I was just so empathetic to the character.
His way to channel and bounce back and forth between sympathetic to malevolent was very impressive.
It really was. And I don't know why I'm so impressed. It should just be like the market standard as far as Mark Hamill goes. But I'm just constantly blown away by how good he is. And they did a very interesting trick with the writing, too.
Mm-hmm.
The first two victims of Chucky, the first two actual victims, I'm not going to count the cat.
The body count in this movie's real low,
It is real low.
but the deaths are memorable. And you kind of touched on this earlier. The violence was a bit of a shocker for you, huh?
A little bit. I mean,
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
I had to look away, and I'm not proud of that, but I did have to look away. So the first two characters, going back to my point, you want them to die.
Yes.
You want them to die, which is a very good trick for writing from a writing perspective.
Yes.
Because you almost side with Chucky.
Yeah, in the very least, you want bad things to happen to them,
That's right.
and it makes their deaths a little easier to swallow. It's the third death.
It's the third death. The character Doreen, who's just an elderly neighbor, lives down the hall.
She's
very
a sweet old lady.
Her son is a detective, and you really like her. And there's nothing malevolent about her, but she wants to be, Chucky perceives her as a threat for Andy's affection and friendship, so Chucky kills her. And you're just like,
In a horrific driving sequence that was actually if there was a death in the movie that actually kind of bugged me, and again it's attached to the character itself and not so much the situation, because in all actuality the other deaths were far more gruesome, but there was just something very real and upsetting about it. that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And maybe it's also because we also like the police officer that's on the case, and his connection to Doreen is very personal. And this is a driving force and a catalyst for him to move into the final act of the movie, which is a bloodbath. It's kind of great.
Yeah. I know we said that the body count was kind of low, but that there's the final act of the movie.
There's a race to the finish line there.
And I think that body count did actually go up.
It racketed up a little bit. And it was, there's a little bit of a rush quality to this movie. I really liked it. I liked it a lot more than I was expecting. And, you know, it's not perfect or in any way. There's definitely like an air of rushedness to the movie that I wish there was almost like another pass with some additional scenes added in, despite the fact that I actually was very happy that I went into a movie that was a super lean, tight 90 minutes. Like, the pacing was great.
It was really, narratively, the flow was really good.
It was refreshing, yeah.
Dialogue was well written, well crafted, believable.
It looked great, too. The cinematography was actually impressive. Like, there's a vibrancy to the movie. There's a life to it. Sharpness. There's some shots in this movie that I was like, whoa, what is this? Like, someone art directed this. It looks awesome.
Yeah. The design of the Chucky doll. Let's talk about the buddy design.
I am so in the middle on this, I'll be honest. I know you really like this thing.
Well, you know what I liked about it? It's the same thing I didn't like about the Annabelle doll. It looks like a doll. And dolls are creepy anyway, but this just looks like an animatronic kind of doll that I believe somebody would buy for their kid. You know?
Don't see. I'm definitely indifferent with you on this one. I don't think anyone should own this. It's creepier than the Annabelle doll in a lot of ways for me, and I don't know if it's like, oh man, and
you're making it real hard not to go on Amazon and see if I can find one of these dolls.
Yeah, do not. Like, oh my god. And like, this character obviously through the 80s has been through hell and back, and there have been versions of this character where quite literally he's been mulched up into a million pieces and sewn back together. Even the sewn back together Chucky has nothing on this creepy ass janky. Oh,
that's why it works.
It's a nightmare. Yeah,
it is, but it works.
Now, the reason it works actually has nothing to do with the doll. Because trust me, if they wrote this like a traditional creepy doll movie, it wouldn't work. The reason it works is because this movie is very much about a single mom, a struggling mom trying to take care of a kid in the city who's trying to get him involved in friend groups and things. And so she's actually doing a selfless act of trying to get him an artificial intelligence to maybe be his friend, to get him more active in speaking and communicating to people. And Andy's reaction to the doll is perfect in this movie. Like, his immediate response is like, ugh, it's kind of creepy. Like, there's a self-awareness that I really appreciated in the writing, because the movie knows that the doll is upsetting, and that helped it a lot for me. But if I'm just talking about this thing on a design standpoint, the way it moves is so upsetting to me. Its face doesn't move properly. It's like constantly delayed. I hate the animatronics so much. Like, they make me want to cry. I'm like, and the movie opens on his goddamn face, and it's just like a close-up, like an extreme close-up on the most disgusting doll face I've ever seen.
Your discomfort amuses me greatly.
Oh, I'm glad you like that.
And I think I can only say that because we're friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a man get mulched by a table saw.
That was more disturbing to me.
Wrong.
No, it was. Seeing somebody get mulched by a table saw, or seeing like the first death, the guy's face get ripped off by, Christmas lights, man.
See, this is what I was talking about earlier.
He gets wrapped up in Christmas lights. The cord from the Christmas lights gets caught in one of those earth churner things. The name escapes me now. It rips his face right off, which that face does make a reappearance on a watermelon in Andy's room.
I think it says a lot about us as individuals that none of that stuff bothered me, but the doll's face really bothered me. I don't know. It goes back to that conversation we had earlier about subjectiveness in horror. There's everyone's got their buttons that they
it's
like
true.
My button was that face just smashing itself into that button over and over again. However, you did reference something that is absolutely hilarious. There is a lot of moments in this movie that are actually kind of genuinely funny and
or
clever.
You get a lot of embarrassment a lot of discomfort,
yes.
like awkward. Oh my God, no.
Secondhand embarrassment and just genuine tension and awkwardness. The sequence with the watermelon head face present.
So Chucky gives Andy the face of this guy who's been seeing his mom, who's a total asshole.
Yeah.
Gives this guy's face to Andy, nailed to a watermelon. And Andy and his friends are trying to get rid of it, so they decide to wrap it in gift wrap to throw in the garbage. And then he gets caught by his mom as they're going to the garbage chute, and he says it's for the woman down the hall, Doreen, who's been helping him with homework. So his mom, being a good mom, is like, oh, let's go give it to her. And the awkward levels.
Oh my God.
It was
like 5 minutes of hell.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Very well done. Very well written.
Done.
The audience was reacting to, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Aubrey Plaza, I have to point out, is excellent as the mom.
Oh, she's delightful. Yeah.
Yeah, I always like her and everything. She can often be miscast, but I thought this was pretty spot on for her.
Honestly, all the acting, and I had no problems with the acting in this.
Yeah. No, all the performances were excellent. I mean, obviously Mark Hamill is the standout, but like you have to give some props to everybody. Like the actor who played Andy had to actually carry an awful lot of weight on his shoulders this movie, because he's kind of like the relatability factor. He's also the audience vessel into what's actually really happening. There's a sequence in the movie where televisions and technology are used to convey a message to Andy, and it's actually really well done.
No, it's really great. I have to say, this was a lot of fun to watch, except for the gory parts. And I find that so weird that I can't watch gore now, but you show me Scream or any of its counterparts, and I have no problem watching, but for some reason, I couldn't watch a guy's face get ripped off. I just couldn't do it, Skyler.
See, it's weird, because like I can go back and watch Scream or Halloween or something like that, and there's something about a man or a person with a knife just stabbing someone that is so realistic to me that it actually bothers me a lot more. Like it actually my head goes to really bad places when I see that. That bothers me so much more than seeing what happened in this movie, like the Christmas lights, the table saw, and a lot of it's because it's on such a heightened, gratuitous level that I just look at it as almost like a cartoon in a way. It seems so unrealistic and so like Final Destination-y to me that like, yeah, we won't get into that.
No,
it's for another podcast.
You want me to rage for like 20 minutes straight, talk about Final Destination?
I mean, I really do. But
well, maybe another episode.
We'll save it.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought, despite some shortcomings and maybe a little bit more of a polish on the script, adding a little bit more rule sets to the learning complex of the Chucky doll, like just there's like a little, maybe another pass on the script or something with some touch-ups on the design of the doll itself. And by that I mean,
didn't you like the designs for the Buddy too? How about Bear Buddy?
Oh my God,
Buddy Bear.
I don't know how we forgot to talk about that.
Growl.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. There's several versions of this doll that wind up in this movie, but despite all of that stuff, the movie is pretty solid, and I wasn't expecting it to be as solid as it was.
No, I don't know. Maybe it's because I went in with such a low bar of expectation that I'm actually very pleasantly surprised.
I had fun.
It was fun. Yes.
Thanks, movie.
Thank you for entertaining me for 90 minutes. I appreciate it.
Why don't we get into scores?
Yeah. So you went first last time. So I guess I give this movie an 8 out of 10. I enjoyed it.
Nice.
I was entertained. It was a solid script, good storytelling. I found that the spin of it being an AI rather than a serial killer's soul was a good modern twist for a modern take on this film. It was really enjoyable. I had a good time.
Yeah, completely agree on all sentiments. I have nothing else to say about it other than I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. So I was very close to perfectly lining up with you on this episode.
Yeah. We don't talk about our scores beforehand either.
Yeah. No,
this is the reveal for us is the reveal for you.
It's a lot of fun, actually.
It is. So
it was almost like lightning striking this time.
Yeah, we did it. This was a good comparison.
Yeah,
I enjoyed this.
So thank you all for listening. This was a fun episode. Dolls Gone Wild or whatever it may be. But why don't we get into how people can reach out to us and talk to us?
Yeah, if you have any ideas for a couple of movies you'd like us to review, or if you have any comments, you can reach us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, Eldritch Creative. We also have our Instagram account, which you can follow, eldritch.creative, and Twitter, which is Eldritch Create. So if you have any comments or suggestions for things we can review, give us a shout.
Give us an old shout. Yeah.
We look forward to doing the next one.
Yeah, we're excited. Episode 3 coming around the corner for y'all.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting episode, I think. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you next time.
See you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.